"Sir, I need to see your identification." The voice sliced through the gentle clatter of dishes and murmured conversations like a blade. Daniel crossed in flinch. His fingers, still resting near the edge of the table, slowly moved toward the worn leather wallet beside his iced tea. Across from him, Layla froze, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. "Excuse me?" she asked, her voice low but firm. The man looming beside their table wore plain clothes, but the badge clipped to his belt and the holster beneath his jacket made his intent unmistakable. Sheriff Cole, local lawman, reputation for control. And now he was here, uninvited, intrusive, and focused. "We received a report of suspicious behavior," Cole said, eyes locked on Daniel. "I need to verify his identity." Daniel didn't speak. He pulled out his ID and held it up slowly like a man who had done this before, too many times before. Cole snatched it with a practiced motion, studying it as if expecting something to be out of place. Layla's voice sharpened. "He's paying a bill. That's the suspicious behavior." Cole ignored her. "You're not from Brookhaven, Mr. Cross." "I just arrived," Daniel said calmly. "I plan on staying a while." Phones had started recording. A couple near the window stopped eating. Even the music from the speakers seemed to dim, as if the Oakwood Cafe itself was holding its breath. Layla pulled out her phone. "This is being documented," she said, turning the camera toward Cole. "Make sure you smile." The tension in the Oakwood Cafe was a living thing now, tight, crackling, ready to snap. And in the eye of the storm sat Daniel, composed as always, his weathered face unreadable. "You should be careful with your assumptions," he said to Cole. No heat, just truth that made Cole's hand hover near his hip. Not grabbing, but close enough to threaten. Daniel didn't move. Then just as suddenly, Cole stepped back. "You're free to go." He turned and left without another word, leaving behind silence thick as molasses. Later that night, Daniel sat alone in his rented cottage, the stillness of familiar comfort. In his lap, a black and white photograph rested lightly. Himself in uniform decades ago, a state trooper, the first black man in his unit. Back when justice had a cost, and he'd paid it daily. That photo was taken just weeks before the call, the one that ended with another black man dead for walking suspiciously. It was the case that made him leave everything behind. His phone buzzed. A message from Layla, a video link. He tapped it and watched the scene from earlier. Cole's demand, Layla's defiance, his own silent restraint, now watched by thousands online. The comments were what he expected, half outrage, half denial. At the Brookhaven clinic, Layla felt the aftershocks. Whispers avoided gazes. One longtime patient requested a different nurse. Another muttered, "You people always make it about race." Her heart ached. That evening, as she slammed her bag down, Daniel didn't ask. She answered anyway. "They're treating me like I'm the threat." "Me?" Daniel stirred his tea. "Some folks mistake silence for peace. What you did today made them uncomfortable. You should have told them who you were. You used to be one of them." Daniel looked up, and if I had, would he have seen me as a man with authority or a black man pretending to have it? A knock interrupted them. Short, deliberate. Layla opened the door. No one stood there, but on the porch, an envelope. Inside was a clipping from the Brookhaven Herald, a photo of Daniel entering the cafe. Across his face, a red X. Beneath it, handwritten in crude ink, "Not welcome." Layla's breath caught. "This is a threat." Daniel folded the paper. "This isn't about me. It's about what I represent." She stared at him. "This is serious." "I know," he said, placing the clipping in his desk drawer beside a small badge, worn but intact. "We no longer guess here, Layla. We're a mirror, and some don't like what they see." The next morning, Daniel walked into the Brookhaven Sheriff's Department. The lemon's polish did little to disguise the underlying bitterness in the air. He recognized the quiet weariness in the sideways glances, the smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Sheriff Cole stepped out of his office, mask of civility in place. "Mr. Cross, to what do I owe the visit?" Daniel met him with the calm of someone who had outlived threats and worn uniforms that bore responsibility heavier than any gun. "I think you know why I'm here." Cole gestured stiffly. "Let's talk." They entered the office. The door shut. Behind it, two men, one clinging to control, the other reclaiming his dignity, prepared for a conversation Brookhaven had tried to avoid for too long. And somewhere in town, behind shutter blinds and whispering pines, Brookhaven waited to see who would flinch first. Chief Cross, the sheriff said, the title tasting bitter on his tongue. Welcome. Inside the sheriff's office, the atmosphere was taut like a drawn wire ready to snap. Daniel didn't bother with pleasantries. Sheriff Cole, he began, his voice steady. Would you have approached anyone else the way you approached me at the Oakwood Cafe? Cole's jaw tightened. I was responding to a concern. Daniel tilted his head. A concern based on what exactly? Cole's silence spoke louder than any defense. Daniel saw it clearly now. The prejudice wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, dressed in concern, camouflaged by tradition. Later that week, the Brookhaven Town Council convened in a stuffy hall filled with wooden chairs and murmurs. Mayor Judith Reynolds stood at the podium, her expression carefully neutral. Please welcome Daniel Cross, our new chief of police. Polite applause followed. But beneath the clapping hands and polite nods was something colder. Skepticism. To them, Daniel wasn't just new. He was different. A black man in a position of power in a town that pretended it didn't care about color. Daniel stood tall. I believe in community, in trust, in fairness. I came here to serve every resident of Brookhaven equally. His words were calm, but their weight settled across the room like smoke. The next evening, Daniel attended a small meeting at the Brookhaven Community Center. It wasn't advertised, just a quiet gathering of longtime residents, most of them people of color. They spoke in low voices, recounting stories of sideways glances, sudden stops by deputies, or job interviews that ended before they began. It's always subtle, one elderly woman said, like something in the air. You breathe it in, and you know you're not really welcome. Daniel nodded slowly. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He listened. That somehow felt like a promise. Later that night, while driving back through the darkened streets, lined with whispering pines, a pickup truck suddenly swerved in front of him. Tires screeched. Daniel slammed the brakes. A man leaned out the passenger side window, face hidden beneath a ball cap. Turn back while you still can, he snarled. The truck roared off before Daniel could react. He sat there, hands gripping the wheel, breath steadying. A chill crept in from the open window, not from the wind, but from something deeper. A warning. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the sheriff's department earlier than usual. His office was silent, the fluorescent lights humming above. On his desk was a note. No envelope, just a folded slip of paper. It read, "Some traditions run deeper than you think." He stared at it for a long moment before sliding it into a drawer. No reaction. That was what they wanted to rattle him. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and began writing up plans for community policing. Weeks passed. Daniel became a presence in Brookhaven. Not loud, but consistent. He visited churches, attended school board meetings, and made himself known without demanding attention. His work didn't make headlines, but it shifted things. Layla was always close by, her quiet strength a lighthouse in the fog. Her knowledge of the town's hidden rhythms helped him move carefully. They knew which hands to shake and which silences to read. One Friday, they returned to the Oakwood Cafe. The same scent of baked peaches and roasted coffee greeted them. They sat at the same table. The server from that first night approached again. This time his posture was less rigid, his greeting less forced. "Evening, Chief," he said. "Nice to see you again." As they ate, the conversations around them felt less hushed. The glances from other diners weren't as lingering. It was small, but it was something. As they were leaving, Mayor Reynolds appeared near the entrance, clutching her coat. She hesitated before stepping forward. "Chief Cross," she said, voice quiet. "I wanted to say, Brookhaven doesn't change quickly, but I've seen the way people look at you now. Some of us, we notice what you're doing. We see the strength it takes." Daniel met her gaze, his voice low. "The strongest roots grow in silence. You don't always hear change until it's already here." She nodded, her expression softening. Driving home, Daniel looked out over the town. The dim street lamps, the distant silhouettes of porches, the quiet hum of a place still unsure of itself. And yet somewhere beneath all that doubt, he felt it. The beginning of something better. The battles he fought weren't always seen, but they mattered. Because in towns like Brookhaven, real change didn't arrive with noise. It arrived with quiet courage.